Nice, nice. It's working. All right,
In
let's
this
begin.
4.5 hour beginner music producer course, you're going to learn everything you need to know to start making your own music in FL Studio. Whether this is your first video on making music or you've been already producing for a few months, this will be the most important 4 hours you're going to experience, even if you've already took other courses or tried learning on your own. My name is Max, founder of mixelite.com, where for years we've been teaching millions of producers online and turning no-name bedroom producers into hit makers. If you stick by, follow along with this course, and download all the resources you'll find in the first link below, I promise that by the end of this
Okay,
course, FL Studio will be your second nature. You'll be turning ideas into real music like it's a game. You'll be able to write your own fresh
that
sounding
sounds
chords
so
and
good.
melodies, program amazing sounding drums, arrange your ideas into full songs, record and mix vocals, and then mix and master the
Vocals.
track until you have a full song ready to be released on Spotify or
My
YouTube.
head's about to
So
die.
clear your
So
schedule, put your phone
hold on, let me
away, and
pause
turn
this.
this video.
Let me make sure my headset charged up so I can start cooking. Mm-mm. Alrighty then. All right. Does make sense.
Your
All
full
right,
screen because you're about to
let's run
master
it.
all the fundamentals of music production. This course is divided into a 7-day experience with daily homeworks and no prior knowledge required. So if you want to
Yep,
go through it
yep.
in a structured
Glad to
daily
hear
manner,
that
check the
part.
first link in the description. You'll also find there the bonus chapter, but just know that I'll be referring to the chapters and timestamps you have below as days, because every day we cover the next topic that builds on top of the previous one, step by step. Ready? So let's just take a few minutes to
7 days,
cover all the
huh?
gear you
Holy
actually need
moly.
to start making music. First off, the right computer. Music production apps and all the virtual instruments and effects are quite heavy to run. You'll likely be fine for the coming months with your current setup, but what I need you to look for is CPU with highest single processor core speed and amount of RAM. So if you're upgrading CPU, look for at least Intel 13th Gen i5, and for RAM, at least 16 gigabytes or 32 if you want to future-proof.
Okay, we
If you
got
go for
that. We
Mac,
got that.
M-series processors are unbeatable for music production, and all major music making programs are also available on macOS, so you're good to go. Don't forget about
Unbeatable.
storing
That
everything
sounds
on an
good.
SSD if you don't want to be waiting long minutes for your projects and instruments to load. Next essential will be your headphones.
Smart.
Music is made out of frequencies, and only your headphones control how clearly you hear the music you make. A good pair
I need
should
good
have a
better.
flat
I need better
frequency
headphones.
response, so from lows like sub and bass through mid frequencies to high frequencies. We want our headphones to not colorize any of these parts, because the goal is to make sure that the music we make translates well
Kase, how's it going, my brother? Hope I said that right.
to other playback systems like car stereo, laptops, or earbuds.
What
You
you up to,
also
my
should
brother?
have
I'm just trying to
video
learn some
imaging to
stuff.
show how clearly you can tell where each sound is coming from.
How
Like
can I
knowing the
tell?
guitar is on the left and the cymbals are on the right. So
Excuse
when
me.
looking for headphones, keep these two factors in mind. But inside today's downloads, you'll find a list of headphones we recommend for every budget.
I'm gonna have to
That's
buy some
all the necessary
headphones.
hardware you need to make music. Believe it or not, everything else is totally optional. But there are
Wow,
still few
okay.
things that you will
That
find
sounds
on most
good. Budget
all
right
studio
there.
desks. First is an audio interface. You'll need one if you want to connect your PC with your microphone or speakers, which in the music production world we call studio monitors. If you just want to record up to two inputs, like a guitar and a vocal at the same time, a two-input audio interface will be enough. Again, you'll find a
I
few
need to
that
buy
you
that.
need in the downloads. For now, just remember to watch out for ultra cheap interfaces because they can break quickly, introduce latency, or not give your microphones enough power to record. We'll talk about
Okay.
recording vocals later in the course, but you might want to get yourself a pair of studio monitors. To choose a great pair, same
Studio
as with
monitors.
headphones,
Okay.
make sure that the frequency response is flat. You don't need a full-blown setup with a subwoofer. If you have an average size room,
Okay.
5-inch speakers will be perfect. Don't go for anything
I know you like being a YouTuber. What do you mean by that, man? I'm a complete amateur. Just trying to have fun with it, you know what I mean?
Higher than that unless you have a huge
You got some
studio
advice? You got
space.
some advice,
Monitors
Cassie?
don't
For
wear
for
out
a
like headphones,
for a
so
noob.
for about $300 you can get an amazing sounding pair
300.
that you'll keep for 10 years or more. With the monitors,
All
however,
right, I guess that's worth
placement
it.
matters even more than the
Playing
gear
games or
itself.
watching TV? I'm not gonna be playing games right now. I'm gonna try this thing. I'm gonna try this thing, which is like producing music. I'm gonna try to learn FL Studio for a little bit. So I might play a little bit later, but right now I'm just gonna try to learn from this video right here, I guess. I have no idea what's gonna happen or how good I'm gonna get in this thing, but I think it's gonna be fun.
The first key is to use the perfect studio monitor placement calculator to find where exactly to
What?
position your monitors. You'll need to measure your room, type in some numbers, and it will tell you the exact placement. The link to the calculator you'll find inside the downloads, so keep it until you get your
Wait. I'm
Then
losing track of
mix
this right now.
sub and bass through mid frequencies to high frequencies. We want our headphones to not colorize any of these parts.
I'm already getting a
This
little
will
bit
always
confused,
make
but
sure
that's
that
part
the
of it.
music we make translates well to other playback systems like car stereo, laptops, or earbuds. They also should have good imaging, so how clearly you can tell where each sound is coming from, like knowing the guitar is on the left and the cymbals are on the right. So when looking for headphones,
Cymbals on the
these
right.
two factors in mind, but inside today's downloads, you'll find a list of headphones we recommend for every budget. That's all the
Okay, we already
necessary hardware
heard
you
that
need to
part.
make music. Believe it or not, everything else is totally optional. But there are still few things that you'll find on most home studio desks. First is an audio interface. You'll need one if you want to connect your PC with your microphone or speakers, which in the music production world we call studio monitors. If you just want to record
Okay, I might have to get some of those.
a guitar and a vocal at the same time, a 2-input audio interface will be enough. Again, you'll find a few recommended in the
Okay.
downloads. For now, just
I'll
remember
buy
to
that
watch
later
out for
tonight.
ultra
Later tonight,
cheap
I'll get
interfaces
that.
because they can break quickly, introduce latency, or not give your microphones enough power to record. We'll talk about recording vocals later in the course, but you might want to get yourself a pair of studio monitors. To choose a great pair, same as with headphones, make sure that the frequency response is flat. You don't need a full-blown setup with a subwoofer. If you have an average size,
How can I check the frequency response of my
don't go
headset?
for anything higher than that unless you have a huge studio space. Monitors don't wear out like headphones, so for about $300 you can get an amazing sounding pair that you'll keep for 10 years or more. With the monitors, however, placement
What about you,
matters
Casa? What are you
even more
doing,
than
bro?
the
What
gear
games do you play?
itself. The first key is to use the perfect studio monitor placement calculator to find where exactly to position your monitors. You'll need to measure your room, type in some numbers, and it will tell you the exact placement. The link to the calculator you'll find inside the downloads, so keep it until you get your
Alright, I don't care about that
Then
right now.
tilt your monitors toward your ears with tweeters, those small membranes, at your ear level. And finally, your head and
Interesting.
two speakers should form an equal
That's so
triangle.
interesting.
Pretty simple, right? But even with this setup, when you're making music, the sound will bounce and echo around your room unless you fix it with some acoustic treatment. You don't need to hire an expert or buy
Ah, man, I'm gonna have to set up my room.
Books, some sofas,
Okay,
carpets,
maybe we can do that.
all kinds of heavy stuff diffuse and absorb the sound a lot. That's why having studio in your bedroom is definitely a good idea. If you have completely
Yep,
plain
as I
walls,
was
you can get
saying.
some acoustic foam for cheap, but this will only dampen the mid to high frequencies, like human voice. The most troublesome are the low frequencies. And why am I talking about this? Because this will all build up, causing you to mistakenly think that your music sounds bad. So it's just even good to be aware of this. If you like to fix this and absorb
Good
those
tips.
low frequencies building up, you need very dense material like rock wool. But even getting
my
a
God.
cold mattress and putting it against the wall will make a huge
But that's only
difference.
for the
The
speakers,
last thing
right?
is that
I don't need that if I have a
to make
headset.
music, you also need a MIDI controller, like a MIDI piano keyboard.
Yeah, I was
These
thinking
just
about
control
that.
the virtual instruments will install. You don't need any
Never used one of these, but
controller.
I
If you want
see
to
all the
tap in
DJs
some
and people
rhythms
use
like
that.
drums or simple melodies, your typing keyboard can work like this as well. So having a MIDI keyboard is cool, but definitely optional. Spoiler alert, you also don't need any real instrument. Every instrument you can think of and more you can find in the form of a virtual instrument that you can use to make music with. And no, you don't have to be able to play any instrument at all. That's why you
Yeah,
have
cause I
a
don't
console
know.
with you. All right, you've got the gear, now the software. So
I
let's
like
focus
music,
on
but I
how to
don't
share some
know
key info. As a
shit.
music producer, you'll use one main piece of software that will run all of your music production needs inside. This is what we call digital audio workstation, or DAW. 70% of people on
DAW.
earth use only four most popular ones that are Pro Tools, Logic Pro, Ableton Live, and FL Studio. For some reason or the other, each
Yeah.
of these DAWs has different type of fans. Pro Tools became the standard for people recording live instruments. Logic Pro, a Mac-only tool beloved by songwriters. Ableton Live is for tech lovers, geeks, and live performances. And finally, probably the most popular one,
Interesting.
FL Studio. It's easy to start, hard to master, popular with beginners and pros, making hip-hop, house, trap, ADM, film music, and everything in between.
Hey, that
Each
sounds
DAW is
good,
built around
buddy.
the same elements that just basically look different. That's why we always recommend to start with FL Studio, a DAW that will definitely
Oh,
let
thank
your
God I bought
creativity
that.
fly as far as you want it to. And if you ever want to change, it's just a matter of days. Each of these come also with their own trial, so you can test them out, and different price versions, so you don't have to pay for everything if you don't need it. Our DAW of choice for this course is FL Studio. It has fully functional, unlimited free trial. You just need to
Yep,
open
already got
projects,
that.
but other than that, you can really learn a lot. If you're looking to purchase the full version, get the producer edition. It's the best bang for your buck, giving you everything you'll ever need. It's much better to keep the difference you'd spend on other versions and spend it on your knowledge and skills. So let's
I bought it
download
the
it
other
and
day in
start
a
jamming. And in the meantime, before we
midlife
dive
crisis
into it,
decision.
let's
You know what I
understand the
mean?
process and
Like,
workflow
oh shit, I
behind
want to produce
creating a track
music.
from start to finish. Naturally, the first step is coming up with ideas.
So now I
That
gotta
will be
use it.
writing chords, writing melodies, creating sounds that inspire you, browsing, or also writing lyrics. Then we start the production session, where we take the chords and melodies we wrote and add additional elements like bass, drums, percussion. Maybe we add more layers to it, make the whole idea have more arms and legs. After, we need to structure all of this brain dump in time. This is what we call an arrangement, so that our song has its intro, outro, chorus or drop, breakdown or verse, however you'd prefer to call it. The fourth step comes in, and it's the most time consuming and the most technically complicated process. It's mixing, and it's all about making our tracks sound
Mixing.
just as the professional tracks
Interesting.
you hear on the radio or festivals. We'll be applying different processing and effects to each element that we've already wrote as an individual or as a group to create a well-balanced mix. It takes about 5 to 10 hours on average. Of course, more if your track is very complicated. As soon as you decide that it sounds good, you have ready, as we call it, final mix. At this point, we'll export the track
Okay.
into a single audio file and put it into a fresh project to do the final polishing process called mastering. This is the final 5% of preparing your track for the release. We'll make sure that the song is loud and up to the current industry standards. The thing here is that since you're used to your track so much, the mastering process is sometimes outsourced to a professional for a fee, so they can dive in with fresh ears and make the best decisions. And the final step we get to is releasing. You'll be contacting labels. If you have a manager, they will be doing it
What?
for you. And labels
Contacting
will take care of
labels?
all the publishing and promoting the track for you.
Imagine,
You can also
imagine.
release your music on all platforms like Spotify or YouTube by yourself. That we'll also cover later in the course. Alright, FL Studio installed. Today we'll cover the layout, navigation, and basics. And every next day of the course,
All right, all right. I might have to whip out the where my FL Studio at. Wait, can I move this? All right. Where was I? Oh, here. I'm gonna have to do it here.
we'll
Let's
dive
see what
deep
this
into
guy.
each of the components. So by the end of the course, you'll be able to confidently use all of them on your own to create full songs. When you first open up FL Studio, you'll see this welcome window that allows you to choose
I already
which
went through that.
project or demo project you'd like to start with. By default, we have it set up to this one, and we don't really want this to show up in the future, so just let's mark this and start new. All of this might feel complicated, but let's start one by one. First thing you'll notice on the left side of the screen is the browser. Think of it like
Wait,
a
wait, wait,
big
wait.
components library.
That don't look the same to me. Hold up, hold up. Uh, I got this different.
For your song. By default, you'll see the FL Cloud over here, which is a subscription product offered by FL, which you definitely don't need right now. So let's go over
Yep,
to all. You'll see here many different folders, but you'll mainly use this area
yep,
to
all.
drag and drop individual sounds into your project, like drum hits. We music producer call them samples. The ones that come by default in FL Studio, you'll find inside the folder packs. So you can definitely ignore everything else other than that. Inside, you'll find many different sounds.
Okay. Facts.
With Fiverr, you can hire
Many
top-rated
different
freelance experts
sounds.
and a variety of AI services.
And the main place of your project is the playlist. This is where we put all the pieces together in time. And if you click around, you'll notice that you're placing down so-called
Oh,
patterns. Patterns are like building
so if I
blocks
grab
of your
this,
music. A
I can
pattern
put
can
it.
have drums, melodies, bass lines,
Mine's look
or any
much smaller than
combination
his.
of sounds. And you can use the same pattern as many times in your song as you want. And if you double click the pattern, you'll open up the channel rack. This is the third key window in FL Studio, and here's where you create patterns. By default, you should see a few channels preloaded already for you in the channel rack. Each channel has so-called step sequencer. With left click, you can add those at random like this, and with spacebar, you can start playing.
What?
And with right click, you can delete. Pretty quick and intuitive, right? Technically, you can make them
Wait, I can't hear it.
infinitely long, but watch what happens in
Oh,
the
because I don't have
playlist.
anything.
It actually just repeats it.
Wait, wait, wait. I'm doing something wrong. Hold up. Hold up. Wait a minute. I'm supposed to hear that, right? Why can't I hear it?
itself because we have the same pattern over and over placed like this, right? Inside the playlist, you also delete by right click. So we have two different types of elements. We have samples that mainly are just for drums, and we also have virtual instruments, which is this flex bass over here. Let's try to add it like this. Project is the playlist. This is where we put all the pieces together in time. And if you click around, you'll notice that you're placing down so-called patterns. Patterns are like building blocks of your music. A pattern can have drums, melodies, bass lines, or any combination of sounds. And you can use the same pattern as many times in your song as you want. And if you double click the pattern, you'll open up the channel rack. This is the third key window in FL Studio, and here's where you create patterns. By default, you should see a few channels preloaded already for you in the channel rack. Each channel has so-called step sequencer. With left click, you can add those at random like this. And with spacebar, you can start playing. And with right click, you can delete. Pretty quick and intuitive, right? Technically, you can make them infinitely long, but watch what happens in the playlist. It actually just repeats itself because we have the same pattern over and over placed like this, right? Inside the playlist, you also delete by right click. So we have two different types of elements. We have samples that mainly are just for drums, and we also have virtual instruments, which is this flex bass over here. Let's try to add it like this. The problem is that in the step sequencer, we can only see steps, the rhythm basically, right? All virtual instruments like this one have some kind of settings. To open it up, just click on the name and it will show up. Pretty intimidating at first, but all of those gives you some kind of control over how this sound sounds. And it's definitely not as complicated. You can start playing. And with right click, you can delete. Pretty quick and intuitive, right? Technically, you can make them infinitely long, but watch what happens in the playlist. It actually just repeats itself because we have the same pattern over and over placed like this, right? Inside the playlist, you also delete by right click. So we have two different types of elements. We have samples that mainly are just for drums, and we also have virtual instruments, which is this flex bass over here. Let's try to add it like this. The problem is that in the step sequencer, we can only see steps, the rhythm basically, right? All virtual instruments like this one have some kind of settings. To open it up, just click on the name and it will show up. Pretty intimidating at first, but all of those gives you some kind of control over how this sound sounds. And it's definitely not as complicated as you might think. Since it's a melodic instrument, we should be able to make it play different pitch as well. That's what you can do by clicking a different keys on your keyboard. This virtual instrument, or VST plugin as we call it, is called Flex. It's a stock FL Studio plugin, and technically we should say that it's a synthesizer, since the sounds are made artificially by synthesizing different waveforms. It is not a pre-recorded real life instrument, right? But it has a lot of different sounds you can choose from. So this would be super fun. Coming back to the channel rack, the problem now is that we only have those steps. Instead, since it's a melodic instrument, we'd like to write a melody. That brings us to one of the last windows you'll find in every DAW. To open it, right-click and choose Piano Roll. Here, you can dial in the notes you want your instrument to play again in time, right? It will basically mimic the steep sequencer, but allow you to choose different pitch of the channel you want to control. We'll dive in depth into it tomorrow. Everything you'll write in, you'll also see inside the channel rack. I also want to make it a little bit quieter. For that, you have this handy knob next to the channel name. And the one on the left controls the panning. So whether the sound is on the left ear or the right ear. There are many different stock VST project is the playlist songs. When you fill song window in FL Elements, we have samples that mainly are just for drums. Window in FL Studio, window when a pattern can have drums, melodies, bass lines, or any combination of sounds. And you can use the same pattern as many times in your song as you want. And if you double click the pattern, you'll open up the channel. Rack. This is the third key window keyboard inside the channel rack. I also want to make it a little bit quieter. For that, you have this handy knob next to the channel name. And the one on the left controls the panning. So whether the sound is on the left ear or the right ear. There are many different stock VST instrument plugins in FL Studio. You can find all of them by clicking on the plus in the channel rack. Again, many different options, but if you'd like to look for instruments, you'd go for Synth Group or Synth Classic. All the other ones are basically just utilities that will not really use that often. For example, we use the one from Synth Classic, which is this flex over here, right? So if you'd like to add another instance or another channel, you just click on it like this. You need to know that find all of them by clicking on the plus in the channel rack. Again, many different options, but if you'd like to look for instruments, you'd go for Synth Group or Synth Classic. All the other ones are basically just utilities that will not really use that often. For example, we use the one from Synth Classic, which is this flex over here, right? So if you'd like to add another instance or another channel, you just click on it like this. You need to know that the panning, so whether the sound is on the left, which is this flex over here, right? So if you'd like to add another instance or another channel, you just click on it like this. You need to know that the VST plugins market is huge, and there are hundreds of companies making their own plugins, instruments, and effects. Other than the stock ones you'll find here, there are many free instruments online that we'll cover and install tomorrow. Same with the samples. I don't really like how those drums sound, so that's why you can go into the packs inside your browser and find different drum sounds and simply drag and drop to replace them. These stock ones are also not ideal. The quality of the sounds you use play a big role in the final quality of your track. That's why we've prepared for you a pack with our best curated samples that are used by top tier artists around the world, so you can be sure you're using the best sounds. You'll find them in the later downloads in the course when we'll be covering drums. So as you can see, making patterns like this inside Channel Rack is a great way to brainstorm. If you want a clean slate, just click on the plus next to the pattern name to add a new pattern. If you want, you can name it, and you'll see now that the pattern is empty. A new pattern showed up in the so-called picker panel, and you can also place it in the playlist. So I'd like to now play whatever we have here in the playlist, but as you can see, when we hit spacebar, nothing happens unless we actually go to the pattern and double click the pattern. That's what we have the top menu bar for. Majority of those settings over here will not be any useful to you. I personally don't even use 90% of what you see over here. The most important panels are this hint panel that basically will tell you what you are hovering your mouse over. And whatever you have active right now, let's say channel rack, and you hit F1 on your keyboard, it will take you to the manual. From my experience, when people start to read through those manuals, you can really get totally lost. So I personally don't recommend this unless you're looking for some specific feature, right? Next, you'll see two knobs. The one on the top is for the main volume of your FL Studio. I would not be using it ever. It's basically an extension of your default Windows or macOS volume. Then we have master pitch, which is just changing the pitch of the whole project. You also never actually use this knob unless you want to, just have fun. And then we have the song position, which I don't find any useful ever unless you want to change the position from where you want to start playing your pattern from, which I don't know, may happen. Then you have the pattern or song mode. So when we wanted to play our song, so our playlist, you need to just change it to song. If you want to go back to changing the patterns, you just can change it to the pattern. And it will be playing whatever active pattern you have right now. Then you have the BPM. So this is the beats per minute. It defines the tempo of your track. All the music styles are always somewhere between 90 to 160. Inside today's downloads, you'll also find the guidelines of how to perfectly choose it. Then the whole area over here is about recording. So if you are recording anything, which we'll get into later in the course, you might be using some of those settings. And all of these are pretty friendly, like countdown before recording, or overdub, which is basically record on top of what you already recorded. For example, you might want to record the rhythm of your kick drum, right? So I can click on my typing keyboard and I will have some kind of a rhythm. I can then just click record. And since I just want to record the notes of the kick, I just hit notes and automations. Now, if I hit play and start hitting on my typing keyboard, you can see it's basically exchanged. If you'd like to wait for the input to start, you can just now hit play. As you can see, I hit the play button. And if I stop, you can see it exchanged. So now we need to uncheck both of those buttons so we can play the song. Right, now you have stuff like countdown before recording or blend recording. So if we now arm the recording again and start playing, as you can see, we've added both notes that were not here, but we did not delete the other ones. Right, so we're just adding new notes. And if you enable loop recording, it will be looping the pattern all over again. Let's come back to everything we had before. So if you want to record anything, those are the settings you might want to play around with. Then we have the song position. You can see it in beats, or if you click it in minutes and seconds, then you have the snap or quantizations of your project. So if you change it to none, nothing in the playlist will stick to the lines and the grid, which can cause a lot of troubles because the rhythms can sound off. So let's come back.
HoneyBook completely changed how I do business. I'm a photographer and independent business. It's a fact.
Then we have the pattern settings, which are also very, very simple. If you want to add a new pattern, you can just click on the plus, or if you want to, for example, clone the pattern or rename it, all the options you'll have in here. So this is also very, very optional, and you don't need to know about all of these to start making music. And then we have 5 most important buttons that are just opening the playlist, opening the piano roll, the channel rack, and the mixer. Now the mixer is the last key window inside FL Studio that we'll use in the 4th step of our workflow, which is mixing. Believe it or not, I've been making music for a very long time before I even started to look into the mixer. So get used to opening and closing the different windows. We have the playlist view over here, then the piano roll that you can open by right-clicking on the channel or opening the window through the button over here, and then choosing the channel you want to edit from the drop-down menu. Over here, you can see we have all of the same channel. Know about all of these to start making music. And then we have 5 most important buttons that are just opening the playlist, opening the piano roll, the channel rack, and the mixer. Now the mixer is the last workflow, which is mixing. Look into the mixer. So get used to opening and closing the different windows. We have the playlist view over here, then the piano roll that you can open by right-clicking on the channel or opening the window through the button over here, and then choosing the channel you want to edit. From the drop-down menu. Over here, you can see we have all of the same channels as we have in the channel rack. And then what's up with the mixer? If you remember, inside the channel rack, we have those numbers that we can basically roll out. Those tell us to which mixer track this element is connected to. So for example, our kick is now connected to mixer track 1. Our instrument we have connected to the track number 5. As you can see when it's playing, we have nice volume indicator. Mixer can be intimidating because people often make jokes and ask studio engineers if they know what all of these knobs are doing. But the truth is that every single track is exactly the same and controls the same things. It's just prepared to process a ton of instruments, right? So you can see a lot of those, but it's just for your convenience. When I play, you can also see that the master track is also showing the signal coming through. This is because all of those individual mixer tracks are connected to the master and asking the window through the button over here, and then choosing the channel you want to edit from the drop-down menu. Over here, you can see we have all of the same channels as we have in the channel rack. And then what's up with the mixer? If you remember, inside the channel rack, we have those numbers that we can basically roll out. Those tell us to which mixer track this element is connected to. So for example, our kick is now connected to mixer track 1. Our instrument we have connected to the track number 5. As you can see, when it's playing, we have nice volume indicator. Mixer can be intimidating because people often make jokes and ask studio engineers if they know what all of these knobs are doing. But the truth is that every single track is exactly the same and controls the same things. It's just prepared to process a ton of instruments, right? So you can see a lot of those, but it's just for your convenience. When I play, you can also see that the master track is also showing the signal coming through. This is because all of those individual mixer tracks are connected to the master track. So this is kind of our group of everything we have in our project. Mixer is super cool, you'll totally love it as soon as we get into the mixing phase in our course. For now, don't worry about anything else other than what we've already talked about. By now you have a good idea on what kind of hardware you need, what software to choose, what's the process of creating a full song, and the rough overview of how to start using FL Studio. And your homework for today is of course download today's pack you'll find in the button below this video, decide for the hardware you want, and download FL Studio. Then I'd like you to explore the stock packs inside the browser and play around with them. Definitely build a simple pattern inside the channel rack and place it in the arrangement view, and also play around with the presets you'll find in the Flex synthesizer to find some sounds you like. Or even try out different synths FL Studio has built in. Today We will get into the first phase of producing a track, which is ideation, finding sounds, and writing chords and melodies. So, what actually makes up for a great song? You know already that music is made out of frequencies, and well-balanced song would naturally have a well-balanced frequency spectrum, meaning that all the frequencies in the spectrum would have some kind of element occupying it. We'll dive deep into each of the spectrum on day 4 when we'll be mixing. For now, you need to know that usually our track should have a few elements that each will be focused on a different frequency spectrum. That's why you'll see bands have 3 to 5 elements, like bass occupying lows, keyboard and guitar and vocals all occupying the mid frequencies, because the mid spectrum is the meat of your song, and then highs. That is occupied usually by cymbals. Drums usually take the whole spectrum a little bit because they create the rhythm and the groove. So no matter the style you produce, you'll be most likely having at least 3 key groups of instruments in your track. Since we usually start with the chords and melodies, I like to use a piano to come up with some ideas. And then we can always replace it with any synthesizer you like or a different instrument. If you've done yesterday's homework, you should have a rough idea what stock synthesizers FL Studio has to offer. The Flex synthesizer we've already tried out, and while it has many cool sounds, I'll be honest with you, there are other also free instruments available online made by third-party companies that only focus on creating the freshest and highest quality sounds. Don't get me wrong, you're just starting out, there's no need to install anything extra if you don't want to. But I want to help you get better fast. And better starts with choosing better instruments. So before we dive into writing chords, let's find and install third-party instruments. This way, you'll have more and better sounds to play with as you make music, and also be able to explore and install new instruments on your own. So, I love Real Instruments. They bring life into your music. None of this is sponsored, and you'll get the download link to all plugins in the course downloads at the end of today's video. The hands down best free VST instrument plugin is Labs by Spitfire Audio. It has all the real instruments you'll need, so let's search for Labs and you'll see the Spitfire Audio Labs. You can just go to try free and continue. without subscribing and then just create an account. Then I'm on Windows, so I'll download for Windows. Now let's go install, and always the important part will be your VST or a VST3 folder. So just make sure you remember that path, and let's install. And now Labs opened as a standalone window. Usually we'll never need anything standalone, so we can just delete those guys. We'll be opening and playing this instrument inside FL. So we just need to go to FL Studio Options and File Settings. Then you'll find the plugins area. You need to click on Manage Plugins. Now the only important sounds to play with as you make music, and also be able to explore and install. This is sponsored, and you down as all the you can create an account. The part will be usually we'll never need anything standalone, so we can just delete. So we just need to go to FL Studio Options and File Settings. Then you'll find the plugins area. You need to click on Manage Plugins. Now the only important part is the plugin search path. FL Studio has by default enabled the default Windows paths. So if you changed the path where your VST plugin installed, you need to make sure to add it by clicking on this button over here. It is a default folder for me, so I can just click on Find Installed Plugins. Now it will show up all the different plugins you have installed. As you can see, I have a lot of them, but we want to search for Labs. And if you write in, we'll have Labs over here. We can favorite it so that it shows up. Quicker for us. And now close the windows. This just tells you what we've done already, and so you can close it. And then, as you remember, to add a new instrument, we'll go to our channel rack. Then click on the plus, and you will find Labs. Over here. So we can click it, then click on the plus, and you will find we've done already, and so you can close it. And then, as you remember, close the windows. This just tells you what we've done already, and so you can close. And now favorite it so that it shows up quicker for us. And now close the windows. This just tells you what we've done already, and so you can close it. And then, as you remember, to add a new instrument, we'll go to our channel rack. Then click on the plus, and you will find Labs over here. So we can click it, and now we can log in. Or if you don't have an account, you can make a free one on the same website where we've downloaded plugin. And now you see everything here is empty. To add new packs, you need to click on Explore Packs button over here, and now you can play the preview of any pack, and we are interested only in those free ones. So we can just hit on the free tier, since most of the packs here inside this plugin are free. You'll love playing with this plugin. I'm looking for just a simple piano so we can clearly hear what we'll be building, but you can choose any one that you want. Soft piano is perfect for this purpose. While it's downloading, let's explore what's going on in here. We can see the piano keyboard, and this is the fundamental of all music. All of it happens on a musical keyboard. The white and black keys are called notes. Just like letters make words and sentences, notes come together to create melodies and harmonies. If you look closely at the keyboard, you'll notice a repeating pattern every 12 keys. This group of 12 notes is an octave. Once you reach the 12th note, the pattern starts over and over again, but at higher pitch. But we never write a song that's using all of the notes. Rarely. We just use 7 notes that create a scale. It's like picking certain colors to paint a picture. It helps us to set the mood and feel